Chess is known for requiring intelligence and strategy in order to beat opponents. However, there are some players who have found methods of cheating to get some very questionable wins. Starting with this game during a charity event, where Vishy Anand would face a player cheating online. This player was Nikhil Kamath. He is known as the billionaire who founded Zerodha. He is clearly the underdog considering he has a rating of only 400. Early into the match it becomes obvious that Nikhil is better than his low rating would suggest. It is also worth noting that he continuously looks off screen. Right now Anand is ahead due to having an extra pawn. This wouldn't last long, as Nikhil gains the advantage relatively quickly. With 7 on his clock, Nikhil moves his bishop to g4. Vishy captures it with his own bishop in response. The black knight then moves to g4, capturing the space once again. The white queen moves to e8, which checks the opposing king. There is nothing but surprise on the faces of the commentators at this point. Moving ahead, Nikhil's queen eventually goes to c5. This forces Vishy to shift his king to h1. As seen by the webcam, Nikhil looks off screen again and plays the move rook c1. Vishy blocks its movement with his knight in order to protect the king. Despite his advantage, Nikhil is drastically low on time with only 13 seconds. Vishy is in a position to win the game by running Nikhil's clock out if he chooses to do so. However, if he were to do that, Nikhil would likely not get exposed as a cheater. He ultimately decides to resign, which puts all the pressure on Nikhil. Following all of this, Nikhil eventually admits to cheating by stating that he received help from sources. Not only was he shamed by the public, but he also had his account banned. He would later create an apology to address everything. Unfortunately, an apology won't save this next cheater from the wrath of Magnus Carlsen, the best chess player in the world. He was playing a game online against a user by the name of Alexander K. Magnus, with the white pieces, opens with the move knight f3. Alexander responds with the move pawn f5. Magnus moves his own pawn to d3. The black knight then jumps to f6. Magnus advances the e2 pawn to e4. This sequence of moves is known as the Dutch opening. Alexander captures the e4 pawn with his own. Magnus captures it right back with the d3 pawn. The black knight then captures the e4 space for Alexander once again. Magnus decides to slide his bishop to d3. The d7 pawn advances to d5, which sets up a knight-bishop trade. There is immediately another trade with the queens being exchanged. Magnus moves his knight to g5. This would allow him to fork the opposing king and rook. Alexander's king slides over to e8 in order to defend against this. Magnus moves his other knight to c3. The c8 bishop shifts over to f5. Magnus mirrors this with the move bishop f4. Alexander jumps his knight to c6. A couple more moves are played until the white knight moves to e4. Alexander slides his rook over to d8. Magnus plays the simple move of pawn f3. This is due to him starting to realize that his opponent is playing a little too perfect. The black knight goes to d4 in response. Magnus slides his rook over to e1. Alexander's king moves to f7. The d1 rook moves to d2, which causes the h7 pawn to advance forward. Magnus jumps his knight over to f2. Alexander slides his bishop to b4. A few pieces are traded soon after. The black knight then retreats back to c6, which is such a great move that it raises even more eyebrows as to the legitimacy of Magnus's opponent. Rooks are traded right after this, which promptly leads to another trade. Alexander advances his pawn to a5. Magnus slides his rook to b3. The opposing rook shifts all the way to b8. The a2 pawn moves forward to a4. Despite the cheating of his opponent, Magnus has the clear time advantage. The black knight eventually jumps to d4 and the opposing king moves right in front of it. Alexander advances his pawn to c5. Magnus responds by moving his own pawn to c3. More moves are played until Alexander runs out of time. It was later confirmed that Alexander was cheating by using Stockfish, one of the greatest chess AIs. Although not everyone can beat a cheater, as seen by a game involving Grandmaster Erik Hansen. He was facing an opponent called ESAP12. The player only had a rating of 978, a clear advantage for Erik. After some of the matches played, Erik Hansen begins to become suspicious. With 12:29 on his clock, ESAP moves his king to h1. This is a move that a player of his rating would likely not have been known to make. Eric moves his queen to h5 in response to this. Isap advances his pawn to g4 as Eric moves his queen forward. A few more moves are played until Isap's rook slides over to g1. Eric advances his h7 pawn to h6. This move was made to try and scare the g4 pawn from advancing forward. Despite his best efforts, Isap does it anyway. After thinking for a bit, Eric captures it with his bishop. More moves are played, which leads to the white queen sliding to d2. Eric shifts his rook over to c3. Isap immediately captures it with his bishop. The black pawn takes the square right back. Isap's queen then moves over to g2. After a few more moves, the black king shifts to g7. This allows Isap's queen to go to a2. It sets up a potential checkmate, which Eric blocks with his bishop to e8. Despite Eric's best efforts, Isap ends up winning not long after. Isap was revealed to have had 97.8% accuracy over the entire game. This clearly meant that he cheated, which led to him getting banned not long after. Last but not least is the controversy surrounding the 20-year-old Grandmaster Hans Niemann. On September 4th, 2022, he defeated Magnus Carlsen at the prestigious Sinquefield Cup in St. Louis, USA. Magnus withdrew from the Sinquefield Cup the next day, hinting at the fact that Hans might have cheated. Nothing like this had ever been done before by Magnus, which led to worldwide reactions. Cheating was not foreign to Hans, as he admitted to doing so a couple of times when he was younger. However, he made it clear to everyone that he's been clean ever since then. Despite that statement, the public opinion was that he was guilty of cheating again. Eventually, a lawsuit was filed against Magnus for defamation, but it was eventually dismissed. Whether or not he actually cheated is still up to debate. Regardless, it was a significant moment in recent chess history.